All right, we got the Truck Series at Darlington. It's playoff race number 2 for this series. And normally the trucks race on Friday, but they're actually racing on Sunday. We got a doubleheader with the Cup Series. So just one thing to keep in mind. We actually have the Xfinity Series on Saturday, then the trucks, and then the Cup. So it's a little bit of a different order than we normally have things. But raced here earlier this year, so it's a good data point as far as when trying to reference who potentially might be good. Look at how that race went. But if you remember, a lot of the trucks wrecked out in that race. So if you're looking at just finishes, kind of take it with a grain of salt. I would dive more into kind of the lap data, the specifics. We use racing reference a lot, and kind of filter it by fast laps, who was running in the top 15, driver rating, kind of things of that nature. That really helps us. It's 147 laps, so same distance as the Xfinity Series. So Dominator points aren't super important, but you definitely don't want to skip out on them. However, I will say be careful if you are stacking more of those guys from the front. For whatever reason, these trucks just love to wreck all the time. So just keep that in mind if you're building lines. Like if there are wrecks late, like how can I advance my position and still have like a profitable day? And like I said, they race on Sunday for a change. But let's hop into the driver by driver breakdown. It's just me on the video. If you watch the Xfinity video, you'll know that the rest of the Fast Cars team, Fast Money team is in the middle of a fantasy football draft. So we know it's fantasy football time, and usually, NASCAR DFS starts slowing down a little bit, but we're going to finish out the year strong. But let's look at the top place here. Oh, one thing to note: any of the guys in yellow I just highlighted as playoff drivers for reference, and then I put Sheldon Creed in green because he has already advanced himself to the next round. So just kind of some things to note. But I think out of the top plays, it's really two guys. I mean, it's been these two guys most of the season long. It's John Hunter Nemechek and Sheldon Creed. Every race, one of them should win. They're going to be the favorite. It just kind of comes down to who you're more confident in. For me personally, I'm going to go with John Hunter Nemechek just because he has, I don't even know if you would call it place differential, but he starts 6th, so he has some place differential points that he can earn. Whereas, Sheldon Creed starts 1st, so he doesn't really have any place differential built in. However, he does start on the pole, so he should be able to quickly, pick up all those dominator points right off the bat. So it really just comes down to who are you more confident in for your line, maybe even potentially both of them. I haven't really built too many lines yet, but probably you want to start with one of those guys. Not that Zane Smith and Austin Hill or Grant Enfinger couldn't work out, but you really want to get the guy who you think has the potential to dominate the race, the potential to get out there, lead laps. And for me, it comes down to, either Nemechek or Creed. I'm going to probably have lines with both of them, one with Creed, one with Nemechek, maybe one with both. I have to build lines to kind of see how it goes, but I think that's a good starting point. And then it kind of comes down to, if you think that driver is going to dominate, how can my other drivers in my line score points? Probably it's going to need to be because of, where they finish. So if their finishing potential, and then the other option would be place differential. So those are going to be kind of the two things that I'm focusing on as far as other drivers to consider. Todd Gillan was pretty fast here in the first Darlington race. He had the 3rd highest driver rating, only behind John Hunter Nemechek and Creed, but he starts 8th, so he's probably a GPP only option. He is a playoff driver, so he is trying to make the most out of this race. Not that the other playoff, or not that the non-playoff drivers aren't, but they're not really as important anymore. Kligerman, love Kligerman. I think he's a great play to pivot or to pair with Creed or Nemechek if you're paying all the way up for one of them. He starts 34th. He offers a ton of place differential. It's a top 15 truck, and if things become a wreck fest, which they might, he can easily squeak his way into the top 10, maybe even the top 8. The equipment is good enough to do that, and he's a good enough driver. Rhodes is probably a sneaky GPP play option this week. Starts 3rd, so if Matt Crafton or Sheldon Creed miss the initial jump, or unload, or have an issue Rhodes is right in, kind of the catbird seat to take over and get those laps led. And he's been pretty consistent. He's been a top 10 finisher. I don't think he's going to be that high owned starting third. He led 34 laps here in the spring race, which is, pretty significant. He had the 5th highest driver rating as well. So I think Rhodes is going to show up, and the question you have to ask yourself is he going to work out for you DFS wise? He's a risky play that I think has a lot of upside, but it can also, really hurt your line if he doesn't perform. Crafton, I feel more confident about Rhodes there. Ankrum, he's another good place differential play, starting 25th. He didn't make the playoffs as a GMS driver, which is, disappointing for him. But he's another, place differential guy to consider if you're playing that narrative out in your head that I think one driver is just going to dominate and lead. And then I just want to rack him up or pair him with the place differential plays. Chandler Smith, probably another GPP only option. We saw him get involved in a big wreck at the last Darlington race. But before that, if you look at how he was running pretty well. He's in a KBM truck. It's the same equipment as John Hunter Nemechek. Should probably be, a factor on Sunday for, probably a top 5 finish. And he's a playoff driver, so he's trying to maximize his points day there. Josh Berry is interesting. We've seen this equipment get a lot better. He did not run this race earlier in the year. That was when Timothy Peters was still piloting this truck. But we've seen Berry and the team make improvements. So I think a top 15 is not out of question for him. Sauter and Friesen start a little bit too close for me. Spencer Davis starts 36th. It's kind of a lot of money to pay for Spencer Davis, though. I'd much rather pay down for some other place differential plays than pay all the way up for Spencer Davis. But if you land on him, I don't hate it. I mean, you can't really lose you any points starting that deep. And again, if there's wrecks, it can easily work out. Jordan Anderson, this truck is just not good. Derek Kraus would be a good value play. He doesn't offer a ton of place differential, but his finishing potential, I feel like, is higher than a lot of the guys kind of priced around him. Dylan Lupton's in the KBM 51. Probably not going to go there just from maybe a little bit of a lack of experience, confidence wise. I can just see him getting in the trouble or having, issues and really hurting his day. Tanner Gray, I do like Tanner Gray quite a bit. He wrecked out in the first race, but most of the field did wreck out in that race. But again, very similar to Chandler Smith. Prior to that, he was running pretty well. And I think he's another guy very similar to Derek Kraus that you have to consider as a good value play for your line. Hocevar, I don't know if I can get there with him starting 5th. It is a risky play. His upside is limited. He's probably not going to get out there and lead you any laps. You really kind of need him to maintain and hold on to a spot, but he's really cheap. So it is interesting to get a playoff driver, for that price in your line. Again, just if he wrecks or has an issue, it's really going to hurt your line and probably take you out of, the green. Clay Greenfield is finally entered in a race. Starts dead last. So I'd much rather pay down for Clay Greenfield than pay all the way up for Spencer Davis. It's probably a top 25-ish truck, and that's really all you need. Starting 38th, those place differential points will work out for you. Deegan, Howard, Purdy, Allen, Wood, and Cram. Not too crazy here about anyone. I think one guy that's interesting would be Lawless Allen there. He's in the 45 niche truck. Normally when we see him run, it's in that one of the Ryumi brothers, 33 or the 34. So the equipment isn't, home run, but it's the same equipment that Carson Hocevar has. And starting 31st at $6,300, it's a relatively a safer place differential play that can work out if he avoids, the wrecks and gets that top 25, top 22 type of day. Tyler Hill starts 21st. If he can kind of maintain that spot, I think he'll be okay. So I think he's a guy you should consider. And then other than that, Danny Bone, don't mind him. if the race just goes green, he should probably finish around 22nd, 24th. If there's wrecks and he avoids them, he has that top 20 potential upside. And then I like Ryan Truex a lot too. He might get overlooked, but he's in the same equipment again as hosts of our $4,900. You can really jam in some really attractive, place differential or dominator plays with him. And you really just need him to kind of maintain a spot. He's probably going to finish right around where he starts. And that's really all you need out of a punt play. I mean, you're really just looking for, for him, probably a top 20 finish, but a lot of the other punt plays, you really just want a top 25. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Nothing too crazy, I think, for the truck series. I think there's a lot of different ways you can kind of, build your lines. But for me, I'm going to just try to get one guy starting up front and then maybe, pairing him with some of those good place differential and value plays that we talked about. But that'll do it for the truck series video. Like I said, Xfinity is up right now. Cup is up right now too. Any questions or comments, drop them in the comments below. If this has helped you in any way, liking the video, subscribing means a lot to us. And yeah, if you guys want this spreadsheet too, it's over on Twitter, just at FastCarsFM. It's a good way to pull it up, interact with us as well. But yeah, good luck, everybody. And as soon as the truck race is done, it'll be time for the Cup race.